Alright, today's look at the Ventures collection. Some items that I've found recently. And right up front here, I have a couple of cassettes. In the last video I did, I showed some cassettes from the 60s that had a clamshell case. And you'll have to see that video to see those. But in this video, I see... this is a cassette I received from some friends recently that have a little record store, and this is what they call the J-card style. I believe this would have been from the 70s. Oh yeah, 1972 it says here. And the reason I say that is the cassette shell itself, it has this is of this style. And of the J-card style on this. This is the Golden Greats album. It's probably abridged. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, it's not. It's the full album. 6 tracks aside. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 6 tracks aside. And you know, the Golden Greats, which the original album came out in the 60s, but this is a cassette version from the 70s. And the interesting thing here is it does have that celebrated gold bikini girl cover, but we see no title on the face of it anyway. If you look over here, yeah, there's the title there. So I'm wondering if when the original shrink was on here, maybe there was a sticker. I'm guessing there was a sticker. It's not that big a deal when you think about it, because cassettes were sold on racks where the cassette title would be displayed here, and so people, you know, in a rack, and a rack of cassettes. And so anyway, that so I thought that was quite nice of them to give that to me. I'm going to put these aside as I get through the collection here. This would have been at least from the 80s, if not the 90s. And the reason I say that, this one is another best of collection of the Ventures. Oh, this is manufactured by RCA Service. It's probably Record Club, I'm guessing then, because the Ventures didn't, Liberty EMI owned the Ventures, getting too much glare there, but owned the Ventures catalog. And so best of, oh yeah, this is a club. It's got that little C there. And so this is a club made cassette. And it's a higher quality as the decades went by. In fact, this one says it has Dolby, a little Dolby insignia on it. But these clear cassette shells and the darker, the tape is, let's see, is it in? Oh yeah, it's in there. There's a good leader in there, a clear leader. This is EMI America is given the is given a logo there, even though RCA Record Club pressed this one, or you know, produced this one, manufactured this cassette. The cassettes, as I say, were in better quality sound by this time, by the 80s. This is 1987 I'm seeing on the J card here. And, you know, this again, they call it a J card because of that. If I orient it properly, you know, there's a J shape there, and so they call that a J card. And it looks like very much the same. Well, let's see, it's not exactly the same titles as the Golden Greats. Hawaii Five-0, for instance, is on here. Unfortunately, they put Wipeout on here. And the Venture Studio version of Wipeout, which I'll talk about in a little bit more in a minute here, is not a great version. Okay. I found a sealed Venture's 20 Greatest Hits, sealed 8-track. Oh, TV International was the label producing the 8-track on... or, you know, manufacturing it anyway, I don't know. It's on the UA label. It is sealed. I will open this. There's no advantage to opening it on the camera here. I mean, there's nothing additional inside. It does have the price tag there. Oh dear, $7.98 they were charging for this, and that would have been in the 70s. That's the sticker on it, $7.98. That sounds pretty high. 1977 it was produced, and as you see there, it's a good record. If this is like the LP that had the same cover, it's not. It's not like the LP that has the same cover. Let me double check on that. I probably should have brought that LP out. I didn't. But the LP had the Ventures version. It was produced in Holland, as I recall. It had this cover. And I don't know that it was called 20 Greatest Hits either. But it had the Ventures version of Wonderful Land, a really great tune, originally recorded by the Shadows in England. But the Ventures, or at least they had a celebrated version of it. And the Ventures version is on the LP that has this cover. But this looks more like, it does have some later tracks on it. Theme from Starsky and Hutch, and theme from SWAT. Those are 70s recordings. Theme from Charlie's Angels, of course, that's going to be. But I have an 8-track player, and I'll be playing that just to hear it. All right. This I hadn't seen before. It's just another issue of the Ventures Christmas album. It's on the SEMA special markets. And it has only 10 of the Christmas album tracks. I'm guessing Scrooge probably won't be on here. No, that way they don't have to pay any royalties. Because I think the rest of these might be public domain by now. I don't know, probably not all of them. But anyway, it only has 10 of the tracks. A couple of the Christmas album tracks are gone, are not included anyway. There's not. It's definitely a low budget effort, as many of these SEMA special markets are. This is made in Canada, and it's that great album. I haven't listened to see which mix they use. There's a couple of different mixes of the Ventures Christmas album out there, and my favorite is the improved mix done by Ron Furmanek. Anyway, that's I'll have to see which one that is. I don't know. Now this is particularly exciting. This is a sealed copy of the Ventures Let's Go. I have a couple of sealed records that I'm going to open. The Ventures Let's Go, boy, this one is really in pristine. Even the fact that the shrink wrap is of a different quality. You can tell it's very thick. It's particularly glossy. I don't think I can get that to come out over the video here. The album Let's Go was released in August of 1963. The Ventures had been experimenting with all different kinds of styles. They'd gone through a twist phase. They had this is one of what we call the Fender era albums, and it's the last of the Fender era albums. After this, as I say, they were kind of searching, going through different phases. They finally came upon a Ventures sound on the album after this, and that album was the Ventures in Space, and that's on another video. But this is just a great album from August of 1963. It's mostly a great album. It's one of my favorites overall, just because it has so many great tunes. It's no originals, unfortunately. And the other unfortunate things are that Wipeout and More. And I'm also hearing it's possible that El Watusi and is it Hot Pastrami or no, I know New Orleans is actually the Ventures, but for sure More and Wipeout are not the Ventures. Wipeout was a big hit around this time, and so the label said, well, we've got to get a Ventures version of Wipeout. Well, the Ventures were out of town. They were in Japan or wherever they were. Actually, this is August of 63, so I don't know where they were. But so they couldn't get the Ventures on here. to actually to record a version of their version of Wipeout, which they knew would be a good seller. You know, they're doing a lot of marquee value here. Let's Go was a big hit at the time too, and so they wanted a Ventures version. Let's Go was the Marquettes, and Joe, what's his name? I forgot the person who did he actually do this production as well? That would make it easier. Bob Reisdorf. No, he did. Bob Reisdorf is the producer on this album. Anyway, so this is the last of the albums before the Ventures really came upon their own style. This is the last of the Fender albums. Their own style was motivated by the Mosrite guitar that they played in January on the In Space album when that came out, and it was you know, quite a big hit for the Ventures. So I'm going to unseal this. Oh, what I want to say though is I was talking, you know, it's just a pristine copy. Even in the shrink wrap, you don't always get that. A lot of times the shrink wrap has pulled the corner a little bit here, but not significantly, not terribly anyway. It has pulled a little bit. The shrink wrap over the years, you know, shrinks, and this is really tight shrink wrap on here. I'm not expecting that this is a first edition. And the reason I say that is I don't know that they were shrink wrapping records in August of '63. My folks had a record store in the late 50s and maybe into 1960. I'm not sure how late they had it. I came around in the late 50s myself, but I was too young to know. Anyway, but I do know that my folks said, well, no, they weren't shrink wrapping records back then. And when did they start shrink wrapping records? That's something to research on Google. But I know in my experience these Fender era albums that do have shrink wrap are not the earlier, are not first pressings where they have a light blue label. So I'm expecting a later label. Let's just have a look though. Let's see. I just unsealing it here. Does it have the, well, oh dear, I'm going to be very careful because I am seeing a very early inner sleeve here. This is quite exciting. Oh my gosh. That is an original inner sleeve. So this is pretty good. Now I'm anxious to see the actual LP and see what label it has. Okay, no, it is a later label. That's a later pressing, but it is, you know, just a wonderful sheen on there. I'll try and, without getting too much of the glare. It's a beautiful copy, and being one of my favorite Ventures albums, and a stereo copy at that, I'm going to have great pleasure listening to this version. I have, of course, other copies, but what I like, though, is now I've never had one that was never played. So this is a completely unplayed copy, and in wonderful condition. I'm going to be putting it in a nice plastic sleeve here, so I'm going to set it aside, and I'll be taking great care of that. But it is particularly exciting that it has this earlier inner sleeve, and it's kind of curious to me why it would have a later label and that original inner sleeve, but you know, it comes from a factory. Maybe they just had a bunch of the sleeves, and they had to later on in later pressings they were still using these sleeves. I mean, Twist Volume 2 is a much earlier album than Let's Go, and so yeah, this is definitely an earlier inner sleeve and in really excellent condition. So that's an exciting find. This is Play Guitar with the Ventures. About 3 years later, I did a video all about the Play Guitar series, and you can look that one up. But this is yet another sealed copy. I found this at Amoeba in Hollywood. A nice sealed copy. And I'm also anxious to open this one and to see what... I've never had a sealed copy of a Play Guitar. April 1966 this came out. And nice sealed copy. Let's see if I can... the reason I'm taking all the shrink off of this one is there should be a booklet, you know, it's a gatefold, in other words, with pages. Let's first, though, see the vinyl. original inner sleeve, which I always love. These things, you know, like a time capsule. What did I say? April 1966. This one didn't chart, this album. The first Play Guitar album did hit the top 100, which for an instructional album, I think it's the only one that has, only musical instructional album has ever done that. Okay, let's just see. Oh yeah, this is an even later label than what we just saw, and but it's correct. This would be, you know, I don't know that they ever pressed more than one, did more than one run of this album, and so there it is. That's exciting. The original inner sleeve. Here's another Play Guitar with the Ventures. Here's their on-stage album. Here's Surfing. You know, the albums of the era. I just realized that's another nice that I didn't open this up this way to see the inside of a. You know, this is a sealed copy, and I see some kind of. It's just a little dust. Okay, but just a beautiful condition. You can see the other. The pages are in untouched condition until now. Yeah, quite a production here. And then here, oh, does this have the? No, this isn't the one. And I think it's the volume 2. If you see, oh no, where is it? They had the Christmas album. It's not there. In the volume 2, they have a copy of the Christmas album, but without the Mosrite headstocks. It has Fender headstocks in it, an earlier rendition. Anyway, that's Play Guitar Volume 3 with a lot of glare on it. There it is, in really great condition, a sealed copy. Opened up for the first time in 52 years. The Let's Go, add another 3 to that, 55 years. These things had been sealed for that long. And now they're finally going to get played, and that's wonderful.